Don't ask Greg design questions. Ask Lauren design questions. You got to know who to ask. Don't ask.
What would you like?
Don't ask random men
No,
what they should do design wise. Ask women. Ask Lauren. She'll help you with aesthetic. Don't ask Greg.
So, Mark, just looking at coming back into
Wow, just jumping right into it.
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, what, do we catch you mid-sentence?
yeah. Stop.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Community
everyone.
groups.
Yeah.
Love is important. Anyway, back to business.
Sorry about that. Anyway, okay, good. So we're back into Corinthians 4.
Yeah.
And you said that the kind of a key point that Paul is talking about is this whole thing about them being conceited, that they've missed the mark, and they're haughty.
Puffed
Corinthians.
up, yep.
They're puffed up.
Yeah.
And so he's posing 3 or 4 rhetorical questions.
Okay.
And you landed in the first one in a testimony. So that first one we looked at about being puffed up, actually the couple that you interviewed, which is Sam and Jocelyn, they shared about from Psalm 73 that, my flesh can fail me, okay,
Yep.
and my heart can fail me, but God is the actual strength of my life. So out of that interview, what were the kind of key things that you felt that really the church should hear about, or?
Well, as I mentioned, I think when we begin to feel like we can construct a life based on our power or our skill set or our talents or whatever, there are things that need to happen for us to be humbled in such a way that we become dependent on God, who's going to be like, okay, my desire is that you recognize that you're rich already.
Yeah.
Because you have everything that you need in Christ. So if we start there, then we wake up in the morning and the money's not there, the beauty's not there, the status isn't there, the reputation's not there, but I'm already rich. I have everything that I need. Jesus has actually created an identity in me that I don't need to live on. Those things aren't going to define me. And that's the temptation. It's like something that I've mentioned often. You can maybe put this in the curriculum, the David Foster Wallace lecture, where he talks about we all worship something. Yeah. And he's talking to college students as an atheist, and he's saying we all worship, and the insidious thing about it is that it's unconscious. And he says the problem is it will always, if you worship beauty, you'll never be pretty enough. If you worship money, you'll never be rich enough. If you worship intelligence, you always feel dumb. Yeah. And so the reality is that is just our life. Yeah. And so the constant challenge for us is to rearrange our habits and our mentality around, I have everything I have everything I need, I'm already rich, so I got to stop pining after the wrong things and start pining after the right things. Okay. So I think that's so with their story, what's illuminated is they were after it, man. They were after, they were models, they were money, they had everything, and it all got taken away, and then they were left with the question, who am I? Yeah. So I think that's part of what Paul's trying to say.
Okay, the other kind of back end of that is that how do we handle trials? In James it talks about that we will go through trials, okay? Yeah. And almost like when the squeeze on, we get to see who we really are. Sure. And then also out of that, it says that if we persevere, or if we're steadfast in trial, that we will receive the crown of life. Yeah. Okay, so God can use trials then.
Yeah, I think that we look at the person of Jesus. Yeah. And we see it's through cross that you get to where you're going. Yeah. Deny yourself, pick up your cross, follow me. In the temptation story, Satan comes to him, gives him an easy way out 3 times. He chooses the harder way. Yeah. And Hebrews tells us, this is the beautiful part. This is the part that we don't understand. Yeah. What we think is the Christian life's tough. Suck it up. You're going to go through suffering. It's going to be difficult. Yeah. Okay. But what you just said is important. You're going to get the crown of life. Yeah. See, that's the key, actually, is that the Christian life isn't just suffer, make sure you carry a cross, whatever. Yeah. Hebrews says the reason he could do that was because he had his eyes fixed on the glory that was to come. Yeah. The way that you get through trials is that you understand what's coming. Yeah. Right? You have, it's what Ray Johnson calls the hope quotient. Like if you have no hope, right, you're done. Yeah. And you can read who's the guy who wrote the book in Auschwitz? Frank.
Oh man.
The something of meaning. Something of meaning.
Yeah.
Anyways, you'll probably look it up. He talked about the difference between the people who survived Auschwitz and didn't were the people who actually had a mentality of hope.
Yeah.
And they Frank Vankel or something.
Sure.
Anyways,
Yeah.
whatever. The point is they had hope when they were were in the fence. They would tell each other stories about, hey, this was what life is like, and this is what life's gonna be like. And the people who had none were done. Yeah. Because psychologically, they just couldn't handle it.
So that, in some sense, the trial can actually be redemptive.
Viktor Frankl.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you have to have the hope that this is going to get. And so the point is, and as we talked about in the message, that what's really key is if you get into prosperity gospel mentality, then what God owes you is to make your life in the midst of suffering better now. That's what he owes you. Yeah. The gospel goes crown of life. Yeah. So the gospel goes, no, you might actually die, but you're safe in dying. Yeah. The prosperity gospel goes, you never die. Yeah. You'll never drown. Yeah. You'll never face anything that wasn't your fault. Crazy. Right? Yeah. Yeah. And we follow a guy who clearly rejected all of that when Satan said, jump off the temple, show everybody you can fly, and everybody will just follow you. Yeah. Turn the thing everyone hates and just sees all day long, rocks. Yeah. Turn it into the one thing they want, which is food. Yeah. And everyone will follow you instantly. Yeah. No, I'm gonna suffer. Because he knew what was coming. Yeah. There was glory on the other side of it, right? So anyway, I think that's an important piece. It's not just, hey, you're a Christian, suffer it out. It's, you got crown of life. Yeah. Which is what he constantly says in Revelation too. Yeah. When he's looking at people, Jesus in the letters, chapter 1 to 3, he's going, you're persecuted, you're in trouble, Nero, Trajan, whoever's killing you, don't worry, I'm gonna give you a crown, but you're gonna die to get it. Yeah.
Tough, but true. So let's just gather that as groups. Let's think about how, we can be puffed up, but our flesh does fail us, but God is our strength. And also that God blesses the man that remains steadfast, okay, that we persevere under trial. And the amazing thing is we do receive a crown of life. So let's just discuss that as a group. So the second rhetorical question that Paul poses is this whole idea that, what do you have, okay, that you did not receive already from God? Right. And I think the big thing for Christians that you brought out, that they've missed the point that they were recipients of grace. So just looking at the whole issue of grace, and it's not something from ourselves. Could you just expand on that a bit?
Well, Sam, had no power in himself. God decided to heal him, spare him, whatever. So obviously grace is kind of, it's undeserved favor, but even the word itself, charis, is within it is the concept of a gift. Yeah. The charismatic is gifts. And so there's this idea that we are given these gifts that aren't us. They're gifts of grace that are undeserved to us by the sovereignty of God. And some of those gifts, there's a wide variety of them. Some of them are actual spiritual gifts, and other ones are you get to wake up this morning and have water. And so I think that, there was that Christmas video that was going around from that church where the guy woke up and he was all wrapped up. And he woke up and he's like, oh my gosh, and he turns on water. He has to unwrap water. The taps, did you see that? And then he goes and he unwraps his kids and he unwraps breakfast and he unwraps his car. And it's like everything in life is a gift. Yes. So what do you got to figure out, you got to change, you got to shift your mentality to, we get to drive cars. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is the first time in history, oh my goodness, my wife, didn't die in childbirth. Yeah. Oh my gosh, all through history, how many people can say that? Yeah. It's like these crazy moments of, man, these are all gifts of grace. We're recipients of grace. We don't get to manufacture that ourselves. So
it's funny saying that. It's so bizarre how we can just ignore grace. And like my mother-in-law in the Second World War, a bomb dropped through their house. It could have taken them all out, delete her daughter, delete my wife. Right. But it was God's grace in that moment.
And it didn't go off?
No. It was a incendiary bomb. It just didn't go off.
So Germany was bombing
London.
Yeah. And your what, uncle?
My mother-in-law.
Your mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Came through a house. Didn't blow up.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So it's the grace of God and the cascade out of that.
Great.
And it's like we can just ignore things like that.
Right.
And you just mentioned
chance.
And
that's a worldview decision. Yeah. Right? You can either look at those things through a secularized, naturalistic worldview and say, it just happens. it's math, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So that's going to cause you to live differently.
Yeah.
If the universe is a vast place of chance and nothingness, or there's a sovereign God who's making decisions and giving grace based on his goodness and not yours, that's going to change the way you live. And that's Paul's whole point.
Yeah.
Why are you, again, coming back to why are you going after riches in a way that is unhealthy for you if you really believe, not just say it,
yeah,
you really believe that you have everything. Isn't it, what's that great line, Edwards and Piper, they say, God is most glorified in you when you are most satisfied in him.
Yeah.
So every time you're going after things to in a way that derails other parts of your life, and you're pining after them and people can see it, every time you're doing that, worldly things, you're kind of saying, I'm not satisfied in him.
Yeah.
I'm not, as Paul talks about in Philippians 4, I'm not content with this. Contentment is fleeting from me. It's not something I have.
Yeah.
But again, he's saying, man, you got to start tapping in your identity in Christ and realize contentment is going to come from recognizing you already have everything.
Okay, so let's gather that as a group. Let's think about that amazing grace, that it's not of our own merit, and also think about the daily things that we just take for granted, the way that grace impacts our lives on a daily basis. So let's just
and you wanted to sing a verse of Amazing Grace. So go ahead.
You got a better voice. You got a better voice.
I thought you said before we throw it to questions, make sure you set it up for me to sing. So go ahead.
I'm not. You can. The other thing you mentioned, Mark, is the fact, the kind of third part of it, that we are already rich, and that the Corinthians have missed that. And the big issue is where our treasure is, there our heart is, and the fact that Jesus should be our treasure. Okay, and this is all going to come to an end, and we should, rather than just ignore that, actually prepare towards it, and that affects the way we live. So could you just unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, I think there's a unique reality in Christianity where it's interesting. I've been reading this this book called Seven Types of Atheism, written by a naturalistic atheistic thinker, and he's talking about how in most versions of worldviews through history, Greek versions, there was never this kind of apocalyptic mentality.
Right.
Even in Eastern philosophy, everything is cyclical. Yeah. It's not building toward a telos, an end.
An end, yeah.
It's just cycling through.
Yeah.
And he said Christianity brought in this sense of history is actually progressing.
Yeah.
It's moving towards something. Now, there's debate about whether it's getting better or worse, depending on which philosophy you agree with. But the idea that it's moving towards something. So Christianity has this really amazing thing, and it's all the way through Corinthians. We're going to see it now pick up in steam, where there's going to be the end, what theologians call eschatology. There's going to be this eschatological moment, this judgment moment, the end of all things. And judgment. Paul talked about it, hinted at it in chapter 3. He's going to talk about it more. Yeah. And living, the point of it is not to get out your VHS things of the old 80s and be like, it's the end of the world, Y2K, planes are going to crash, babies will disappear. That's not the point of it all. The point is, you live right now in light of the end. Yeah. Okay? So as the Peterson quote I read, the flood's coming, so prepare yourself is kind of this different mentality than the rest of the world. Yeah. And if we live in light of the end, then we can get our house together. Yeah. We can live different way toward the poor. We can understand. If we have Eastern philosophy where this is one life out of 1,000 that you're going to live in some kind of karmic reality, which is fascinating because if the point of it is that you learn from the earlier life how to be better in this life, it's not really helpful to me that I can't remember the earlier life.
That's crazy.
Because I don't know what to actually adjust, right? It's kind of you're kind of cutting off the branch. The concept is good. Like you used to be a bee and and then you were a tiger and now you're a human. Great. Maybe. Can't remember any of it, so I don't really know how to make myself better than the past life. Yeah. But the sense is you get one life, Hebrews says, and then judgment. Yeah. You live once, then judgment, period. Yeah. There's no cycles. Yeah. And the end is coming, and live and prioritize and prepare your life in light of the fact that the end is always coming. You're gonna get sick. You're gonna lose a loved one. You're gonna lose all your money. Your marriage is going to struggle. The end is coming, and so how are you going to prepare for the end? Yes. Is a massive point of Corinthians. And of course, he talks about it's life in Christ, life in the Spirit, life as part of the corporate church, life on mission, all of these amazing things. But anyway, so that's kind of the point. So don't take the humanistic version where, man, it's just bad luck and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Do the Christian version, which is it's coming, so you got to prepare.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah. So let's just think about that as groups. Let's ignore the fact that. Let's not ignore the fact that we are rich in Christ, okay? And our ultimate treasure should be Jesus. Let's discuss that. Also, Mark mentioned about that we should be preparing for the end, whether it's the end of our lives, end of the world, but that's our attitude.
Or just a metaphorical end, like next week you get in a car crash and you're in a hospital bed for 2 months.
Okay.
Like that end, not the actual end, but the end, how do you prepare for that?
Okay, great. Hi guys, great to be with you all again this week. I just want to encourage you that at the recent community group launch, we had over 150 people that came to the Connect desks and wanted to sign up. So that's phenomenal. So be praying for leaders, be praying for those new people as they join groups so they can tuck in and be a part of family. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.